The last 50 years, I've been an investor who has bet on bond markets, and I've been through plenty of these debt crises.
So Ray Dalio just came out swinging with another one of his doom and gloom predictions. This time, he's telling us the UK is basically screwed. Government debt is out of control, inequality is through the roof, and apparently we're all heading straight into what he dramatically calls a debt death spiral. Now look, when a guy worth $19 billion tells you the economy is about to implode, you might think, wow, this guy must know something. But here's the plot twist that's honestly kind of hilarious. Ray Dalio made his entire fortune by betting that economies would implode. So, is this guy a wise financial guru trying to save us all, or is he basically the arsonist giving fire safety tips? Alright, let's meet Ray Dalio. This dude has absolutely nailed the whole wise old sage vibe. He's got the gray hair, the measured speaking voice, and he's written these best-selling books with titles like Principles and The Changing World Order. You know, the kind of books that make you feel smarter just having them on your coffee table. Dalio founded something called Bridgewater Associates, which sounds kind of boring, but is actually the world's largest hedge fund. We're talking about $150 billion under management. That's by a small country money. And Ray's sitting pretty with a personal net worth of $19 billion, which is basically, I could end world hunger, but I bought another yacht instead territory. When this guy appears on podcasts or financial news shows, he's got this whole elder statesman thing down pat. He talks about economic cycles like he's some kind of financial Nostradamus. He'll drop phrases like paradigm shifts and long-term debt cycles
paradigm shift
with the confidence of someone who definitely knows what those words mean. His recent rant about the UK sounds super reasonable on the surface. He's all concerned about how governments are stuck between impossible choices. Cut spending and people riot in the streets. Keep spending and the whole economy goes kaboom. He talks about how rich people are fleeing high-tax countries faster than rats off a sinking ship. And honestly, it all sounds pretty smart. Dalio presents himself as this guy who's above all the political nonsense, just telling it like it is. He's the straight-talking uncle at Thanksgiving who drops uncomfortable truths while everyone else is arguing about politics. But here's where things get absolutely bonkers. Ray Dalio isn't some neutral observer watching the economic train wreck from the sidelines. This man has built his entire career in that sweet $19 billion fortune by literally betting that train wrecks will happen. I'm not kidding. This guy doesn't just predict economic disasters. He puts his money where his mouth is and profits when everything goes to hell. So when Billionaire Ray starts handing out financial advice about how to fix the economy, maybe we should ask ourselves, is this genuine concern, or is this like asking a vampire for blood bank security recommendations? Okay, let's talk about how Bridgewater actually makes their money, because this is where things get really entertaining. They run something called a pure alpha strategy, which sounds fancy but basically means let's make massive bets on everything going wrong. These guys don't make money when the economy is humming along nicely and everyone's happy. Nope, they make bank when everything hits the fan. It's like they're professional disaster capitalists, except with better suits and fancier offices. Remember 2008? You know, when millions of people lost their homes and the global economy almost ended? Well, while regular folks were eating ramen noodles and wondering if they'd still have jobs next week, Bridgewater's main fund posted an 18% return during the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. They saw the whole subprime mortgage thing coming and thought, you know what would be fun? Let's bet against the American dream. And they made billions doing it. Then in 2010, when European countries were going through their whole sovereign debt crisis thing, you know, when Greece was basically selling its islands to pay bills, Bridgewater was there making billions by shorting European bonds. They correctly predicted that regular Europeans would get completely screwed, and they monetized that suffering like champions.
I don't know what a hedge fund is. I really don't know.
This is the hedge fund business model, folks. They don't create value. They don't build companies or invent products. They just sit there with their fancy algorithms and their army of PhDs, waiting for bad things to happen so they can profit from them. But here's the absolutely ridiculous part. Ray Dalio spends half his time on TV lecturing governments about using too much debt and leverage. He's all fiscal responsibility this and living within your means that. Meanwhile, Bridgewater routinely borrows 10, 20, sometimes 30 times their capital to make even bigger bets. So when Dalio warns about the dangers of debt, he's not speaking as some Dave Ramsey-style financial conservative. He's speaking as someone who uses leverage more aggressively than a Vegas high roller on his fifth Red Bull. The only difference is when governments mess up with debt, taxpayers foot the bill. When Bridgewater messes up, their rich investors lose some yacht money. It's like Gordon Ramsay criticizing your cooking while simultaneously setting the kitchen on fire.
The necessity of trying to be stimulative when there are not other monetary policies. You can't lower interest rates anymore. There's been a lot of printing of money.
According to Ray, when governments try to tax rich folks, these rich folks just pack up their Lamborghinis and move to Monaco. On the surface, this sounds like basic economics. Rich people are mobile. If you tax them too much, they'll bounce. Capital flight is a real thing, and governments should probably think about it. But let's decode what Ray's actually saying here. Essentially, he's arguing that billionaires should get to threaten governments with leaving if they're asked to pay their fair share. It's like economic blackmail, but with better lawyers. Nice country you got there. Would be a shame if all the rich people left. When wealthy people do their little tax exodus dance, guess who gets stuck with the bill? Spoiler alert, it's not other billionaires. It's teachers, nurses, and the guy who fixes your plumbing. They can't exactly pack up and move to Switzerland when their taxes go up. Dalio frames this as just an economic reality that governments need to accept. But from where I'm sitting, it sounds like a billionaire explaining why billionaires shouldn't have to follow the same rules as everyone else. And here's the best part. Ray Dalio is literally the poster child for this behavior. His money is spread across more countries than a Netflix original series. If any government does something he doesn't like, he can just move his wealth faster than you can say offshore account. So when he warns about the consequences of taxing the wealthy, he's not some neutral economist. He's basically saying, don't tax me, bro, or I'll take my ball and go home. When Ray Dalio starts preaching about austerity and fiscal responsibility, let's take a moment to appreciate who actually suffers when governments follow his advice. Spoiler alert, it's not Ray. Dalio's prescription for debt-ridden countries is pretty standard billionaire medicine. Cut government spending, reduce debt, and make everything more business-friendly. Which sounds great until you realize what that actually means in practice. When governments cut spending, they don't start eliminating hedge fund subsidies or billionaire tax breaks. Oh no. They go straight for the stuff that actually helps regular people. Schools get defunded, hospitals get budget cuts, social services get slashed. Basically, everyone who isn't rich gets to enjoy a nice dose of fiscal responsibility. Meanwhile, Ray Dalio remains completely immune to all of this. His kids aren't going to suffer if education funding gets cut. They're at fancy private schools that cost more than most people's houses. If healthcare spending gets reduced, Ray's not worried. He's got access to medical care that would make a Saudi prince jealous. It's like a rich guy recommending that everyone else eat less food while he's sitting at an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Money, credit, debt, economic cycle.
But here's where it gets really twisted. Dalio's investment strategy actually benefits from the chaos that austerity creates. When governments cut spending during economic downturns, they make recessions worse. And what do hedge funds love more than a good recession? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So Ray isn't just insulated from the consequences of his advice, he literally gets richer when that advice makes everything worse. It's like a doctor prescribing medicine that makes you sicker, except the doctor owns stock in the pharmaceutical company. The man out here recommending economic policies that he profits from while being completely protected from their negative effects. That's not economic wisdom. That's just really, really good business for Ray. This brings us to the absolutely beautiful irony at the heart of Ray Dalio's whole deal. He presents himself as this concerned observer, warning about economic dangers. But guys, he's not watching the fire. He's the one who brought the gasoline. Hedge funds like Bridgewater haven't just observed the financialization of everything. They've been leading the charge. They've pushed for deregulation so they can make increasingly ridiculous bets. They've lobbied for tax policies that favor investment gains over actual work. They've created derivatives markets that are basically financial weapons of mass destruction.
And we are producing these wealth gaps, as what you point out. And that is because the profit system doesn't do it all.
It's partly the result of a financial system designed to funnel money upward to people exactly like him. When hedge funds make billions betting against entire countries, that money doesn't magically appear. It comes from pension funds, small investors, and ultimately from regular working people whose economic security gets bulldozed by financial speculation. Dalio talks about dangerous wealth gaps while personally sitting on a $19 billion fortune. He warns about social polarization while benefiting from the exact system that creates it. It's like a tobacco executive giving lectures about lung cancer. The debt crises he predicts are often triggered by the massive capital flows that his industry creates. The political instability he observes frequently results from economic policies designed to benefit investors at the expense of workers. Think about it. What happens when a tiny group of people accumulate ridiculous wealth while everyone else struggles with stagnant wages and rising costs? What happens when people realize that billionaires pay lower tax rates than kindergarten teachers? Ray Dalio isn't warning us about some random economic fire he happened to notice. He's warning us about a fire he helped start, while simultaneously placing bets that it will spread and buying fire insurance for himself. So here's the punchline to this whole Ray Dalio situation. He might be completely right about everything. The UK might genuinely be heading for a debt crisis. Inequality might actually be reaching dangerous levels. The whole system might really be falling apart.
But do consider that gold is a form of money.
He's a guy who's made $19 billion by betting that the stuff he warns about will actually happen. He profits when economies collapse. He gets richer when governments fail. He makes money when regular people get screwed. When Dalio issues his economic warnings, he's not necessarily wrong, but he's also not exactly unbiased. His predictions serve his portfolio in ways that might not serve your bank account. So the next time a billionaire hedge fund manager tells you that governments are spending too much and taxing the wealthy too little, maybe ask yourself, is this wisdom from a financial sage, or is this a sales pitch from someone whose business model literally depends on everything going to hell? Remember, folks, when someone's job is profiting from disaster, their disaster predictions start sounding less like prophecy and more like a really elaborate marketing campaign.